Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm sure there's some of you out there saying, who the heck is she? So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And first off, I don't have a Chris Nybo story, but anytime a girl from the South Side comes to Oak Brook, I end up at the mall. So I too was a little bit behind by the time I wound my way over here. I'm originally from Rockford. I went to Illinois State University, public school educated all the way. I went through a master's degree program where I did my first internship covering the legislature in 1996. So I've seen a lot. In fact, Lee Daniels was speaker when I was covering the legislature for the first time. Now I have the honor of being on the Chicago Tribune editorial board and playing a big role in our endorsement process. Over the past month, I've interviewed more than 100 candidates. Our motto is, we talk to the politicians so you don't have to. Present company excluded. And our endorsements on Illinois House and Senate races will start running tomorrow. Being an editorial page that leans right, free markets, we tend to ask a lot of the questions of candidates that you are interested in. You'll see in our endorsements and on our questionnaires that are on our website, we track their pension votes. We were big backers of Senate Bill 1. We ask them about minimum wage and what their qualifications are, if they would support a minimum wage, outright or with, conditions. We get them on record if they favor a graduated income tax. We get them on record if they favor a millionaire's tax. How do they feel about EDGE tax credits and the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and reforms that could be done there? We talk about workers' comp reform. We talk about tort reform. We try to get all of these legislators on record so that when they go down there, they don't change their minds. And I think the editorial page has been effective at reminding them sometimes when they do. There are quite a few legislators who were in office in 2011 and passed a 67% income tax hike during a lame duck session. When we talk about what good leadership is, sneaking a tax hike through in the middle of the night when a third of the General Assembly is not coming back and doesn't have to be accountable to taxpayers is not good leadership. We have a number of candidates who you'll read about in our pages this week who are now down there and kind of changing their mind. They originally said that they would not allow the tax, they would allow the tax to expire as it's supposed to on January 1st, and now they're having second thoughts. I think more devastating even than the budget cuts could be coming are losing the trust and confidence of voters. And when legislators flip-flop, that's exactly what happens, and that's why you see so much apathy in towards our government. So if you haven't read Sunday's editorial, I would recommend you look it up. It's kind of it looks back at the budget that was just passed. It's frightening. I mean, the Democrats passed a budget that is, you'll hear Pat Quinn, there's another debate tonight, you'll hear the Democrats talk about the state is getting on the right track, unemployment is dropping, we're getting a handle on our state bills. But what they're not telling you are some of the details that are in this Sunday piece, and also that we are about to see probably the pension reform bill get tossed by the courts that had about $145 billion in savings that we were counting on. The health care bill already got tossed by the courts. There's about $56 billion in savings in that bill. And if the tax expires, which we have advocated it should, we're going to be right back in crisis mode January 1st. So any legislators who try to convince you that the state is moving in the right direction, I would question that. In terms of leadership, I think there are some things that Mike Madigan does well. And that's part of the reason why he has such a stranglehold in the House and John Cullerton in the Senate. We know who's going to control the General Assembly on November 5th. It's mathematically impossible in the Senate because there aren't even enough contested races to close that gap. And in the House, it's very unrealistic to think that the Republicans will be able to pick up the needed 13 seats. So we know who's going to be in charge. What Mike Madigan does well is combine strategy. He has all of his candidates out now on a program where they know exactly how many doors they knock on every day. They repeat that. They're getting money from all of his special interests. And then when they are elected on election night, one of the first things he does is call them all and ask for their support for him to be Speaker. They generally say yes. I don't think he's had an opponent for Speaker in, 32 years. So, and then once they get to Springfield, I know there's always this aura that Speaker Madigan is, that he's whispering everyone's ear and he's telling lawmakers how to vote and he has them on a chokehold. And the truth is, he doesn't. And I think that surprises Democrats when they get down there, that he doesn't tell them how to vote. He doesn't need to. He's smart enough to not have to say out loud what he needs done. He provides them with staff. Staff are so important in interpreting bills every day that they're down there. It's not just the money during campaign time, it's the legal help. If you are a Democrat and you had an opponent on the ballot and Mike Madigan's really smart attorney, Mike Casper, was able to kick that person off the ballot for you and then you get to run unopposed, that is great. That is heaven sent for an incumbent. So those are the kinds of things that Mike Madigan does to build loyalty. It's not just writing checks. Leadership does require working across the aisle, and I think there have been cases over the past few years where that's been done. Pension reform is certainly one of them. Medicaid reform is another great example where a very serious issue, got some serious attention and you had bipartisan work. But too often, good bills get stuck in Madigan's House Rules Committee. Again, that's not good leadership. We've been talking about the need to combine the comptroller and treasurer's office in this state for a number of years. It would save about $12 million annually. It has about 75 sponsors on this bill, Republicans and Democrats, and Madigan refuses to release it from the Rules Committee. Working at the Tribune, I get a very close-up view of candidates and election time. And a lot of times I think people think the media is just, we're so cynical and we never have anything good to say. And it's really not true. I think the reason that I've been covering politics for as long as I have is because I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, deliriously so sometimes, that the state is going to get on the right track. And that's why I think it's really important to spend a lot of time vetting candidates. We do have a lot of potential in this state to turn things around. It's not too late, but our neighbors have been passing us up. And even though the legislature has passed budgets in the past few years where they did make full pension payments and they did do cost cutting, it was too late. We were already driving over the cliff, and now we're trying to pull ourselves back. I hope that you will pay attention to the editorial page over the next week if you're interested in how you can impact state government. We try to guide you in the direction of candidates who are independent thinkers and who are willing to shake up their own party. There are Republicans who protect the status quo, and there are Democrats who show independence and courage, and we hope to point those candidates out to you. I would like to take a minute to answer any questions that you may have. I think we were going to try to reserve a little time for a Q&A. Otherwise, I'm be happy to hang around a little bit afterward. But that concludes my remarks.
Okay. And on another thought, anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask before Kristen's? I've got two people I know always ask questions. That's why I want to make sure. There we go. Mario?
So why did we endorse Dick Durbin? Part of our endorsement process is bringing candidates in. And so we did get a good hour debate between Jim Oberweis and Dick Durbin. That was a tough endorsement. We are a board of 13 writers, 13 people. We don't all write. Some of them are editors. And we take a vote, and the vote ended up being for Dick Durbin. It's difficult. I think in that race, our endorsement of Dick Durbin is more a reflection on the strength of the Republican Party in this state than it is a reflection of the editorial board of the Chicago Tribune. Does that answer your question? No? Okay. Well, again, we just give voters guidance. We endorsed Doug Truax in the primary. We were very hopeful that he would win the primary, and he did not.
We have the microphone if anyone else has anything else. Okay, we've stayed on time. Thank you so much, all the speakers. Thanks all of you for staying for the luncheon. We were glad you were here, and that concludes our program.